Welcome back to this episode of the Shooting Bricks podcast. And wow, wow. Wow. Anyways, as always, I'm Jarrod Castillo and I'm joined by.
I'm Daniel Hen, and joining me as well.
Dang, that was a short introduction. Happy Thursday, y'all. It's your boy, Gerrel Sells.
And how can this be a happy Thursday when the Warriors gave up a 17-0 run to basically seal game one in the worst way possible? Um, yeah, that was an amazing downfall for the Warrior squad. And you know what? Instead of being sad about it, I'm going to try and find something, but I'm going to let you guys take the floor first because it's going to take me a little bit to think of something nice about this game. So, Daniel, what are your thoughts on game one of the NBA Finals between the Boston Celtics and the Golden State Warriors?
Jarrod, what happened? What happened? It looks like Boston was gonna lose in the third quarter. They looked dead. The Leprechauns looked dead. Like no post, like their body's cold. And most teams in that situation would have waved the white flag. But no, in the fourth quarter, the Warriors literally took a nap. 17-0 run in the fourth quarter. And literally the Warriors were literally shooting bricks during that entire last phase of that game. It was mind-boggling. I was stunned. Like, what the hell happened? They fell asleep at the wheel. They shot the bed. Anyways, G, what do you gotta say?
Yeah, he made a face too, G, when during that host.
I love the plug of shooting bricks, but yeah, I was multitasking watching this game. And you just couldn't, just listening to the crowd, I always felt like the Warriors were just dominating there in the game. Like, Celtics getting blown out. Then you look up at the score and it's like, wow, this is a close game all the way down to the final stretch. Yeah, I am shocked. I am shocked, but we were complaining about a boring finals, and it doesn't get more exciting than this. Boston stole game one.
Yeah, they stole game one by scoring 40 points in the fourth quarter. 40-16. And dude, G, you were talking last podcast about who's going to step up for the Boston Celtics. Jason Tatum, right? Obviously, he had an off game. But Al Horford, shout out to Al Horford. He made some critical shots. And people are always saying, like, oh, experience this, experience that. Well, experience doesn't mean jack garbage if you're going to give up 40 points in the fourth quarter. That's unbelievable. I feel some type of way about it, but let's look at the bright side. Curry, he played well, right? He played
amazing,
well.
Incredible.
Yeah, he played out of his mind, but the main thing was I hate to kind of like pick someone out specifically, but Draymond Green, he like
useless
on the offensive end, yeah. Like missing those free throws at the end of, was it near the end of the fourth quarter or pretty damn close to the end of the fourth quarter?
It was pretty damn. Draymond took a random ass three and he completely bricked it. Completely.
Yeah, it's crazy because this is just looking at the stat sheet now, he went 2 for 12. Like,
yes.
I'm not the best offensive player at all, but I'm pretty sure I can hit more than 2 shots.
Ooh-wee.
I mean, all of us could probably hit more than 2 shots. Granted, it's not the NBA level, of course, but some of the things that he was doing, he was 0 for 3 at the free throw line. Those are easy points. Especially, like I was mentioning, those toward the end of the fourth quarter, those 2 free throws, that could have shifted the momentum, but he bricked both of them. Now, I don't know about you, but like I said, Steph Curry had a great game. 12 for 25 for 34 points. He broke the most threes in a quarter record. And surprisingly enough, every time that record has been brought up, the Warriors lost both games. That when they hit 5 and a quarter, I forgot who it was. I think it was Steph against the Cavs. They lost that game. And then Steph Curry does it again and they lose this game. So if I'm Steve Kerr, I just try to figure out a way to get how do I even get easy baskets for Draymond Green? Like, because he's missing layups, he's missing wide open free throws, he's missing threes. What kind of offense can he give you, if anything? G, you're the coach here. You probably figure something out, but go ahead, Daniel.
About Draymond Green, I think this is where Golden State largely lost the game, in my opinion. Is that number one? They should have, they should have put their biggest mistake was not putting their foot on Boston's throat in the fourth quarter. They need to close out. Every team that's looking for NBA championship, you got to finish your games. That if you can't do that, you're not going to win the chip. But I think one of the big reasons why Golden State lost this game was exactly about Draymond. They lost this game in the paint. I think what Boston did, this game was all about 3-pointers. It had at least the most combined 3-pointers made in NBA Finals history. But Golden State let Boston, edge them out in the paint. Yeah, you had Kevin Looney, but as you said, Jarrod, Boston had Al Horford. Al Horford was a better response to Kevin Looney. So at the end of the day, it's a lot of this. You're in fact way correct. Like what Steve Kerr has to be thinking tonight on his flight to Boston is like, how do I get Draymond active in this offense or whatever? How do I get my other bigs active as well? Because I mean, it's going to be. I still think Golden State is going to win this series, but I still think you got to figure this out. What you have to figure out the paint out because it's an annoying issue.
Yeah, and just really quickly, the Celtics outscored the Warriors 34-26 in points in the paint.
Jesus.
Like that's just I think that is an interesting thing to point out, but go ahead, G.
Yeah, if y'all listen to the previous episode, We're Back episode, I mentioned that the Boston Celtics have size. And we saw it today. You just made a point that they were dominating in the paint. What was the numbers again, Jarrod?
34 Celtics, 26 Warriors.
So an 8-point difference in the paint. We're not even factoring in rebounds and all of that jazz. I don't think the focus is to get Draymond Green involved in the offense. As a coach, you don't run plays for Draymond Green. He is not your scorer. He is your hustle guy. You maybe have him at the high post, set screens, slip those screens, and get ball reversals in. But you want him to be your facilitator. I think the X factor in this series is going to be Andrew Wiggins. You saw how he started off defensively. He had 2 blocks, two assists, and like 4 points in the first quarter, first half, something like that. Some outrageous stat. Defensively, he was just checking all the boxes. I think Andrew Wiggins is going to have to be the X factor within this series because he's going to be guarding those wing players in Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Not only that, he's going to have to be a scoring option. He's not a Kevin Durant, he's not Harrison Barnes, but he's Andrew Wiggins. He can give you 18 to 20 points consistently, and that's what the Warriors are going to need because I don't even know who the second scorer was this game. Who was it outside of Curry?
It was Andrew Wiggins. 20
With
points.
how many points?
20 points.
Okay, so he's already meeting what I'm expecting for him to do. I wouldn't say we need to push it more than that, but if Jordan Poole and Klay Thompson aren't hitting their shots, which I doubt that's going to go on for too long, Andrew Wiggins might need to put his foot on the pedal, and he might need to steal that Finals MVP away from Steph Curry.
And it's very interesting you bring up the X factor and Andrew Wiggins, 2 points I'll get to. So the X factor for me, I feel like should have been Jordan Poole. Right? Because like watching Warrior games, yes, what he does on offense is great, but at the same time, what he gives up defensively isn't great because he falls asleep too easily. And there were times when, it was Derek White or it was Jason Tatum or even Jaylen Brown. There were moments where it was something that he should have been paying attention to defensively, but just wasn't. He fell asleep and either they got an easy drive, kick out pass, whatever, or they got an easy bucket. Moving forward, that's not something that is going to work because you mentioned Klay Thompson. He shot 6 of 14 for 15 points, right? Obviously, that's Klay Thompson. He's probably not going to shoot that poorly, but at the same time, like that is if Jordan Poole is giving you next to nothing because he only put up he went 2 of 7 for 9 points, 1 of 5 from 3. Okay. But the thing he's giving up defensively, that might be an issue. And then you go back to Andrew Wiggins. When the game started, he was very aggressive, right? He was flying in. He was going in for the rebound. But then again, just like Jordan Poole, there was just kind of like that thing where it just kind of turns off. That intensity from 11 goes to like a 4. And then that just spreads. So go ahead,
I,
Daniel.
I've noticed about what this Golden State team did throughout the game, where, as you said, Jared, like the intensity went off. Like I completely agree with that. There. It was just weird going from quarter to quarter, where both teams did it, but the Warriors did it much more intensely. Where in the first quarter, the Warriors were hot. The Warriors were hot, but in the second quarter, there was just like you just felt this weird malaise with this team, and it happened again again in the third quarter. Like Golden State just turned right back on. They became much more aggressive. And in the fourth, they just shut down. So I think what needs to happen for this Golden State team going forward in this series, they got to find a way to be more consistent. Because as of right now, what they're in terms of tempo, they're very inconsistent. It's either like it's very high or it's completely dead. And I think that it's only game one. But then again, this is the NBA Finals. If they're gonna win, they're gonna win it all. That the team has to figure out like, hey, we gotta have a steady flow here, because
Yeah.
extremes don't work here.
Yeah.
Extremes don't work.
And I think it's really, I guess it's stupid of me to say, but I'll say it anyway. Like the Warriors need to win 3 out of the 4 quarters.
Yep.
Like I'm guessing like every team does, but I don't know. There's just, like you said, they're on, they're off. And then the third quarter, they're definitely on. And then the fourth quarter, I guess they're just used to winning by so much that they take their foot off the gas pedal, like you keep alluding to, G, like in podcasts past, playing with your food, right? The Warriors are playing with their food, and this is what happened. I mean, yeah, go ahead, G.
Big facts. Not much to say outside of that. I mean, if y'all watch the game, this recap just tells you. I honestly just don't know what happened. Like I said, I was looking at my screen, typing up, and you just hear, I want to say Oracle Arena, but what's the name of the new arena?
Shea Center.
Chase Center. You just hear the crowd, like, and I just felt from this jump that was going to be a big part of the Warriors winning this game because the crowd is so involved. But the Celtics were cool, calm, and collected. I know that I mentioned before that their experience might not come into play, but it showed. They looked like an experienced team here. They didn't get rattled. They lost a bunch of the quarters, but they won the quarter that mattered, and that was the fourth quarter. Like you said, Al Horford had an amazing game. Jason Tatum didn't do too hot, and I hope that he doesn't keep getting this bad rep, because no offense, Kobe's had some bad games. I'm not comparing Jason Tatum to Kobe, but just as Lakers fans, you got to understand that sometimes players are going to have these types of games. And if the Celtics can continue to have multiple players such as Marcus Smart, which I doubt he's good. How many points he had today? 20?
18.
18. I doubt Marcus Smart comes out the gate hitting 2 threes in the first quarter again. But if the Celtics can somehow find multiple people to continue to contribute in the ways that they did today, the Warriors are going to be in for some trouble.
And, obviously you never want to see the Warriors in trouble, but you got to give props to the Celtics too, G. Like you said, right? They didn't get rattled. They kind of forced their way back into this game. And again, praises to Al Horford, because he played out of his mind. In his first NBA Finals game, he put up 26, 5, and 3. And he hit some, like I said, timely 3-point shots, timely baskets, especially the one on the like next to the baseline or whatever. Like that was you just got to tip your cap off, man. Like it wasn't a tough shot, but it was a shot that he needed to make. And momentum wise, he made it. But yeah, I mean, Al Horford led the Celtics to 26. Jaylen Brown had 24, which I thought he had more than that, quite honestly. It seemed like he had more than that. Derek White with 21 off the bench, and then Jason Tatum with 12, but 13 assists. He shot 3 of 17. Now, if you guys are, let's go both sides here. If you guys are Steve Kerr, right? What would you be telling the squad after a loss like this, especially how they were up by double digits heading into the fourth quarter, plus they led by 15 in the third quarter. But to see that evaporate and to see the game slip away from your hands like that, I know it's game one, but if you're Steve Kerr, what would you guys tell your squad?
Well, first thing you got to remember, Jarrod, Steve Kerr is the product of the one and the only great, the Chicago Bulls and ex-Lakers head coach, the Zen master, Phil Jackson. He comes from that line of thinking. So I think the worst situation, if I was Steve Kerr in this moment, the worst outcome and worst reaction to this is to overreact. So what I would be in that locker room today, guys, it's game one. We got sucker punched. Let's be honest. We got sucker punched. The Leprechauns gave us the black eye. But let's look at the tape tomorrow morning. Let's learn from our mistakes. Mark Jackson said this on the telecast. Learn from our mistakes, and let's aim for a more steady flow for game 2 on Sunday. It's only game 1. This series is still wide open. Now, if I was Coach Udoka on the Boston side, I would first want to give my props to Derek White and Jaylen Brown. They honestly, in my opinion, they were the heroes of this game. Jason Tatum had a bad night, but Derek White had one of the more pivotal moments in this game. He gave Boston the lead, and late in the fourth quarter, he's the reason why. I think he's the biggest reason why Boston won this game. Jaylen Brown, when Jason Tatum was out, the sidekick stepped in. Robin saved Batman. So if if I'm Boston, all right, let's prepare for a difficult game 2. Let's give it our best. And I would actually have a private conversation with Jason Tatum afterwards, telling him, dude, if we're going to win the chip, we need you to be all in. You cannot be laying these eggs. I've noticed this with him throughout the playoffs. Sometimes he would lay these eggs from time to time. And I would tell Jason, hey, man, you got to cut that shit out. But that's the gist of what I would tell the players from both perspectives of both teams.
Got it. What about you, G?
I'm agreeing with Daniel as far as Derek White being that X factor for the Boston Celtics. Came off the bench and scored 20 points, and this is not a fluke. He's done some of that in the previous series with Miami, just hitting shots, and he's not known to be a sniper from behind the arc, but he hit one on Curry, got him off him a little bit, shot a contested 3. But if I'm Steve Kerr, I have to readjust my scheme. And the reason why I'm saying that is because they focused on Jason Tatum. They made sure that he had tougher shots. They had contests, but I don't think they game planned for Derek White coming off the bench for 20 points. What I'm telling my team is we have to team rebound. We have to team come together, because as far as defensive boards and getting out to transition, you talked about them choosing whether they want to run with pace or slow it down. The good thing about the Warriors is they can do both, but they have to be strategic about it. So first and foremost, we have to secure the boards, because like I said, Boston has size. They're going to be physical. So get those boards, get out in transition and try to beat them. You got to play to your strengths, and your strengths is getting out to the transition and hitting those threes. You got to tire them down at certain times. So if the Warriors are feeling like they're losing on the run, like they did in the fourth quarter, maybe we need to slow down the transition just to run some plays, get Curry moving around, hit that 1-3, get the crowd going, and then that's when we start pushing the tempo. So that's what I would tell the Warriors. In addition to that, I'm challenging Jordan Poole. Derek White is outperforming you. You didn't get most improved player. You should be in the conversation for 6 man, and you got this guy, Derek White, who got traded halfway out in the season. He's showing you up. This is your chance. You're over here smiling, holding the conference finals trophy. You need to get the NBA championship. So I'm challenging Jordan Poole. You don't get outplayed by that man. If he's scoring more than you, you better be trying to lock him down. You better be doing other things. And then on the flip side, as the Boston Celtics, they got to keep doing what they're doing. Marcus Smart continuously needs to be the defensive anchor and keep the pressure on the Warriors. You cannot let those light-skinned brothers out there have all free range to shoot these threes. You have to be in their face. You have to. They don't need to get technical fouls, anything like that, but they just need to play with hustle like they did now. Keep your composure. You're a young team. Jason Tatum, shake it off. You talked about wanting to be top 5 in MVP voting. You talked about wanting to be all defensive team selection. This is your chance to showcase that. Forget all of the accolades. Get this NBA championship. Get this finals MVP. If you're scoring under 15, 20 points a game, then you need to be locking up somebody. You need to be getting 10 rebounds. You need to be getting 10 assists. There's other ways to impact games. And Jason Tatum, you went on a stretch earlier this season when you were getting 8+ assists games, and everybody was betting on you to get it. So that's what I'm going to tell him. That's what I'm going to tell the Celtics. But yeah, hopefully next game is going to be as competitive as this first game. Sorry, the coach in me just came out.
No worries, dude. We love to see that. But yeah, and I basically would agree with all your guys' statements, because it is game one. The the worst thing either coach can do is overreact.
Absolutely.
And almost, I am 99.9% like thinking to myself that those coaches won't overreact. They'll figure it out. But the people on Twitter, they will definitely be freaking out. They're gonna overreact, say, "Oh, Warriors this, Warriors that." Because even through the game, like I was scrolling through social media, and they're like, "Oh, this is the Warriors dynasty, this thing, that thing, third quarter," and then the end of the game happens, and they're like, "Oh, Warriors are washed, this thing, that thing, LeBron's legacy, whatever." And I'm like, "Okay, dude, it's one game, relax." But yeah, as it stands, right, the Warriors. I think this is probably the best thing that could have happened to them, right? Now they get to figure out, okay, this is what went wrong. This is how the Celtics play under pressure. How can we break that pressure by doing something else? And that's up to Steve Kerr and the staff to figure that out. And it's up to Ime Udoka to be like, okay, we punched them in the mouth. They fell down, but they're not knocked out yet. How do we land that knockout punch? And I think this is going to be a very interesting series. And I'm curious to see how much more, I guess, playing time Otto Porter gets, because he's been huge. He's been that dude off the bench at least.
Pivotal.
Exactly, pivotal. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll go from there. But yeah, just any last things I should say to add before we wrap up this episode?
I think the next two games are going to be especially important in this series. I think Golden State is I think they're gonna edge out in game two. But I'm very curious what happens in game three in Boston. So if if Boston can find a way to take a 2-1 series lead, I'm beginning to think I kind of underestimated his Boston team going up against his dynasty. Because the way they're playing, like Boston kind of they're irritating Golden State more than I thought. So I think the next two games are going to be very intriguing in my eyes.
All right. G.
I agree. Just much like I said, Steve Kerr has to adjust his scheme. For the most part, playing against the Grizzlies, you're focused on Ja Morant and just hope that other people are going to make shots. To a certain degree, they did, but couldn't deliver. With the Phoenix Suns, you focused on Devin Booker and hoped everybody else made shots. They kind of did, but not really. And then when it came to the Dallas Mavericks, all you got is Luka Doncic. So compared to the Boston Celtics, I know we have Jason Tatum. You talked about Jaylen Brown being Batman, but Jaylen Brown was borderline all-star. And now you got Marcus Smart and Derek White hitting shots, and they play defense. So this is going to be tough. I know I said Celtics in 5 just to avoid that 6-6.
Warriors in 5.
Or Warriors in 5 just to avoid that 6-6 prediction that we had. But it's looking tough. And, as a basketball fan, I guess maybe this goes to game 7. I don't know. I don't know if that's me calling it a little too early. I'm not going back on my word. I don't know if the Warriors are going to be able to win 4 in a row, though. But, yeah.
I mean, shout out to Zaza Pachulia. I don't know if you guys ever seen that video of him on the Hawks. After, I think the Hawks won game 6, they're like, we going to game 7, baby.
Yeah.
Game 7. So there we go. But yeah, I think this will still go in 6. Warriors win game 2, probably win game 3, lose game 4, win game 5, win game 6. That's how I foresee the series going, but we'll see what happens. But just a very, very, very quick hitter. There was news flying around. There's been conflicting reports that Phil Knight, I'm sure you all know who that is. He's one of the co-founders of Nike. He was in talks to purchase the Portland Trailblazers for like $2 billion or something crazy like that. But there have been conflicting reports saying that he isn't purchasing, but Woj is saying that he's thinking about it. And so there's just this weird back and forth. So maybe the Portland Trailblazers might be owned by Nike soon enough. We'll see. We don't know, but interesting things there. And speaking of interesting things there, don't forget to subscribe to the Shooting Bricks podcast and leave a review on your platform of choice. It really helps us out. Lastly, make sure to follow us on @podcastbricks on Twitter at Shooting Bricks Podcast on Instagram and at The Shooting Bricks Podcast on YouTube for all the news and the video of this episode of the Shooting Bricks Podcast. And as always, I'm Jerry Castillo.
I'm Daniel Huynh. Good luck to the Dubs and joining me as well.
Go Lakers.
Wow.
It's your boy, really real, Gerrel Sells.
And we will see you guys next time.